Are we all set there, Erwin? All right. Hey, great night tonight because we're having a city commission meeting. We got a bunch of people here. Isn't that fantastic? So I want to welcome everybody to this regular business meeting of the Kalamazoo City Commission for Monday, October 3rd, 2022. Clerk Borling, please call the roll.
Commissioner Decker.
Present.
Commissioner Hess.
Present.
Commissioner Hoffman.
Present.
Commissioner Juarez. Commissioner Pradel.
Present.
Vice Mayor Cooney.
Present.
Mayor Anderson.
Here. May I have a motion to excuse Commissioner Juarez?
So moved.
Motion made by Vice Mayor Cooney,
Second.
supported by Commissioner Decker. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Thank you. The motion passes. Commissioner Juarez is excused. So we are honored and lucky tonight to have for our opening ceremony the Good Reverend Rachel Lomberg, who is also on our Foundation for Excellence governing board. She's from the People's Church, and she will be providing an invocation to help us get started here in the right space. Please rise for that invocation and then remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
So as we begin the work tonight, I invite you to find that calm center, and so we can have prayer or meditation or just a moment of smooth and slow breaths. Sources of reason and radiance, sources of courage and compassion, we gather tonight to do the work of our city government. Tonight, we ask that you move through the minds and hearts and words and actions of those gathered here, our elected leaders, our city staff, members of our community. May our leaders be guided by their deepest integrity. May we know that tonight's business is not abstract or theoretical, but has the power to bring more justice, more equity, and more joy to our city. May all of us know that we are called to love the part of the world we can reach, and may we act with wisdom as love's hands, love's feet, and love's voice today and all days. May it be so. May we make it so. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Reverend Lomberg. I appreciate it. So we have a couple of proclamations this evening. The first one is celebrating 150 years, if you can believe that. Wow. For the Kalamazoo Public Library, older than the city of Kalamazoo. How did that happen? I'm not quite sure. And we have, let me see you behind the sign over here. Yes, all right. Yeah, please come forward. Okay. It's sad that we're going to have Farrell Howe here, but you are actually replacing him. All right. So thank you. And Commissioner Decker will be reading the proclamation.
Thank you, Mayor. Whereas Kalamazoo Public Library started its humble beginnings in 1860 when the Kalamazoo Public School System inherited 123 volumes from a failed township library. With that tiny collection, a library was open for 1 hour each week with limited use for students in the school district and their parents. And whereas the 2,800 volume school library became a public library in October 1872 when its collection was made available for the first time to the general public. And whereas in July 1890, Dr. Edwin and Mrs. Cynthia Westover Van Dusen offered a gift to the community of $50,000 toward a new public building to house the growing collection. The building was open to the public on Saturday, May 13th, 1893. And whereas the Kalamazoo Public Library now serves a district population of 127,800, through 6 locations: Central, Washington Square, Alma Powell, Eastwood, Ashtimo, and a mobile library that provides outreach services to neighborhoods throughout the Kalamazoo community. And whereas now, celebrating 150 years of service to Kalamazoo, KPL has grown steadily from a shelves of books to a vibrant community resource, providing exemplary service to a diverse population by a dedicated staff that is committed to excellence. Now, therefore, on behalf of the 54th City Commission, I, for David Anderson, Mayor of the City of Kalamazoo, do hereby celebrate the 150th year of the Kalamazoo Public Library and the City of Kalamazoo, and encourage all citizens to join me in the celebration.
Thank you, Commissioner Decker, all commissioners, and Mayor Anderson. My name is Ryan Weber. I'm not Farrell. I'm director at Kalamazoo Public Library, and it's an honor for me to be here to represent the library tonight. On behalf of the library, thank you for this special proclamation in honor of the library's 150 years of public library service to the Kalamazoo community. It's not every day that an institution turns 150. And it's not every community that has a public library quite like KPL. Nationally recognized in 2002 as Library of the Year by Library Journal, and daily recognized every week, every month, and every year as a great library by residents of Kalamazoo, KPL is truly a special place. We're celebrating not only our sesquicentennial, try to say that real quick, but also the library's historic and continued role as a champion of access and innovation. We were one of the first libraries in the country in 1894 to establish a children's room, and one of the first to discontinue overdue fines for children's reading materials. That happened back in the 1980s. And since that time, it's led to the elimination of all fines in 2020 in an effort to remove barriers and encourage families and readers back into the library. KPL has long held innovative, educational, and popular programming, such as a community read program known as Reading Together. Also, our children's Ready to Read Party in the Park every spring. The Youth Lit Seminar, now in its 45th year. Story times, book discussion groups, teen events, and weekly outreach events at schools, organizations, and parks. And now, with the help of a new mobile library, we can bring that joy of reading and introduce a love for the library directly to residents. The library has powerful and not quite so typical services as well. For example, in its highly used law library, our local history department, and One Place, which is our very busy and active service for nonprofit capacity building here in Kalamazoo. We are able to provide the best in print and AV collections and easy access to digital resources. And now, brand new this month to coincide with the 150th, we'll provide access to the historic digitized collection of all issues of the Kalamazoo Gazette going back to 1837 and available from home, too. KPL has an incredibly talented and passionate staff that work diligently and thoughtfully to provide equitable access to services, materials, and programs, demonstrated recently by the creation of One Card, which is an automatic library card. It provides an automatic library card for all KPS students. And also our big role in helping provide 1,000 hotspots to families and students who needed better connectivity for virtual learning during COVID. Our staff are recognized by their peers across the state and the country, and by their next-door neighbors, too. KPL is not a treasured community resource without incredible staff and dedicated board members. And lastly, we cannot celebrate 150th birthday without recognition and thanks to an extremely supportive community. A lot of cities love their library. I hear it over and over. But Kalamazoo residents take it to the next level. They're the reason KPL exists, the reason we're supported financially, the reason we have talented and dedicated staff, and the reason we are, year after year, able to lead with access and innovation. Thank you to the City of Kalamazoo and to you, Commissioners and the Mayor, for your support and for this special proclamation this evening. We're truly humbled, honored, and grateful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Weaver. Director Weaver, just a quick question for you there. So you are pictured in front of Encore magazine, and you have things in your arms that didn't look like books. You want to talk about that for a second?
Yeah, sure. So that's I could have talked about that too. Library of things, a lot of libraries are doing that. We're doing it quite well. It's exploded. So we check out non-traditional library materials. We've taken the lead from other successful libraries that have done that, but so we're checking out things like Instapots, baking pans, games, carpet cleaners. Libraries used to do this in the old days. They would check out artwork. You could check that out and place it in your home or office for a temporary time period. Record players, typewriters. It's always happened. It's changed a little bit, decades later. Yeah, library things. And I didn't bring a marker, but I'm open for signing my autograph across your Encore magazine cover.
The line can form right outside the door.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Thanks for your work, yes. So we have another very special proclamation tonight, and I would suggest that the only reason that this is being done this evening is because the persistence and the hard work of a local individual, Jermaine Jackson, who is here with us this evening. And I had the honor and the opportunity over this weekend to attend a play that was written by Buddy Hanna and directed, and that was based on a work of a person who has not been recognized. And I will let members of the team here who want to accept the proclamation, or will accept to talk about that. But it was over at the Kalamazoo Public Museum. If you didn't get a chance to go to it, I would suggest you find another time. It's definitely a beginning of creating an awareness for actions and activities and contributions that heretofore have generally not been recognized. So thank you for that work. It was a pleasure to be there. So I get to read this proclamation, and I will read that right now, and then I will go down, and I'm sure there will be some comments to be made. So this is a proclamation by the City of Kalamazoo celebrating Henrietta Lacks Day, which is tomorrow, October 4th, 2022, in the City of Kalamazoo. Whereas Henrietta Lacks was born on August 1st, 1920 in Virginia, to John and Eliza Pleasant on January 29th, 1951. Henrietta Lacks was taken to Johns Hopkins for a knot in her stomach, which led, unfortunately, to a cancer diagnosis. And whereas during her cancer treatment, 2 samples were taken from her without her permission or knowledge. The samples were given to a cancer researcher at Johns Hopkins, in which it was discovered that Henrietta Lacks' cells multiplied rapidly and thrived, essentially becoming immortal. And whereas her cells became known as HeLa cells and would contribute to many scientific discoveries, such as the development of the polio vaccine, cancer cures, treatment, research, and most recently, her cells were instrumental in helping scientists with the COVID-19 vaccine. And whereas Henrietta Lacks has widely been unacknowledged, her cells advanced medicine and benefited millions around the world, and she will be remembered for her contribution to science. And whereas Kalamazoo Valley Community College and its Kalamazoo Valley Museum recognize the historical legacy of Henrietta Lacks, it has gone underreported and is increasing the public awareness about her and her accomplishments through organizing a Gila story, Mother of Modern Medicine play and mini exhibit at the museum in collaboration with Henrietta Lacks' great-nephew, our very own Kalamazoo resident Jermaine Jackson. Amazing. It's funded in part by the Kalamazoo Valley Community College Foundation, the Kalamazoo Valley Museum's Mary Jane Stryker Theater. They're hosted a play 3 times, 7 p.m. on Friday, September 30th, and 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. on Saturday, October 1st. And the exhibit runs from September 1st through February 27th, 2023. Now, therefore, on behalf of the 54th City Commission, I, David F. Anderson, Mayor of the City of Kalamazoo, do proclaim October 4th, 2022 as Henrietta Lacks Day in the City of Kalamazoo, and strongly encourage all citizens to join me in recognizing the importance of her contributions. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, City Manager, and Commissioners. I'm Arlene McMichael. I'm with the Marketing Department at Kalamazoo Valley Community College. I am representing the college tonight and representing Kalamazoo Valley Museum, for which I also do marketing for, and the college operates the museum. I want to thank the mayor for coming to our play. More than 450 people came to the museum over the weekend to see 3 performances. We had overflow rooms. We just couldn't contain all the people. It was just really amazing. And for those people who weren't able to make it, we have encore presentations because we filmed it, and it'll be on Sunday, November 13th at the museum, and on January 15th at 1:30. And this proclamation right here, it's going to become part of the exhibit. And so, Jermaine, the man of the hour. And he has his family members here.
So much, and good evening, everyone. And I just want to pay honor and respect to Mayor Anderson, to City Manager Rixima, and to all of the commissioners, everyone here under the sound of my voice. Thankful to be here with my family and with the cast of A Gila Story, and Arlene McMichael, who was very instrumental in helping us collaborate and put this all together. I am honored for this happening to celebrate the life and the legacy of my great aunt, Henrietta Lacks. And I just want to encourage everyone on tomorrow, if you want to do something to honor Henrietta Lacks, if you haven't heard of her before, I would encourage you to Google, YouTube, watch the movie, read the book, even Wear Purple, which were the color of her cells upon discovery. And I'm just grateful for this opportunity just to proclaim her legacy and tell her story, because she was loved by so many, irregardless of what happened with her body when she was not aware of what happened with her body. But I'm grateful to know that there was a purpose in her life, and that through that purpose, in her death, that she still lives on through her immortal cells, that even allow us this opportunity to recover from a pandemic as we speak. And so thank you so very much. Thank you.
thank you once again. I just want to tell you really quickly here before the team leaves is that the City Hall will be lit. We have lights in front, purple, tomorrow in recognition of Henrietta Black's Day here in the city of Kalamazoo. So thank you very much. Take care. Commissioners, you have in front of you the agenda for tonight's meeting. Are there any changes you would like to see? Seeing none, is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to an item on the consent agenda that is under item G? If so, you need to ask for that item to be moved to the regular agenda. Any requests? All right, seeing none, next is communications. City Manager Ritzma.
I have no communications this evening.
All right, appreciate that. Now is the opportunity for public comments. And here at our business meeting, we give 3 minutes for public comments. Please state your name and whether you live in the city. And we'll start with individuals who are attending with us here in the chamber, and then we will move to people who are calling in with comments. So I will be providing the phone number right now so people can begin their calls. If you want to call, the number is 888-382-9556. And you can call now through the end of the public comment period. So, yes, go ahead. Thank you.
Good evening tonight. My name is Maggie Adams, and I do reside in the city of Kalamazoo, and I'm also a member of Isaac's anti-racism team. We know the city of Kalamazoo strives to be an anti-racist organization. We know that city commissioners have been asked, at least most of you, 2 questions from Isaac in order to address systemic racism, to consider community input and hold systems accountable, to deepen your impact as a public official using an anti-racist lens, attend a workshop on anti-racism, equity, empowerment, and accountability. So again, I usually ask people to just pause with me and reflect on how this has been with us using an anti-racist lens the last couple months here. I remember a meeting in June during this time. You guys apologized to a community member during a discussion about allocating youth funds. A member admitted that it was a rushed process and so it was not on the side of equity and said lesson learned. A member continued to say, I don't think any ill intent in that we want to learn so that we can impact many people. In another meeting, the city decided to decriminalize the defecation, urination, and littering ordinance. And again, the word equity is used, but not without providing any resources to meet the needs of those affected. We've asked the elected city officials here also to reflect again on the spirit of why the Kalamazoo Citizens Public Safety Review Board is here in the first place and whether or not this process is able to fulfill its mission with the city manager having the final authority on any decision. And transparency and consistency. The former chief of Kalamazoo Department of Public Safety did not retire as previously was reported by the city, but actually fired. That seemed like a direct dishonest statement to us in the community. Terminated without cause. I'm just curious, was she put on a leave of absence? And you know, for me, I've stood here before placing a statue of Abraham Lincoln in Bronson Park to commemorate him, even though we know this person has a questionable place in history, could be an oppressive and racist act to some folk. Some conclusion to these incidents, it brings to mind whether intent versus impact and how this relates to striving to be an anti-racist organization that does not continue to learn off the harm to the BIPOC community. We know that good intentions don't make good people or good city decisions, and having good intentions doesn't mean you have a good impact as a person or as a member of the city commission. So let's remember this one understanding, that good impact is usually defined by the people whom the action seeks to actually benefit. So thank you for pausing with me, because we at Isaac still do continue to love you and want to work with you and continue to build a beloved community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, please.
My name is Kay. I see time and time again people who come before the commission about systemic issues, organizations that are, and people who are directly impacted by environmental racism due to graphic packaging, the increase in gun violence, the houselessness issue, housing issues in all its facets, nonprofits and community stakeholders constantly. And yet all these issues persist because city leadership wants just to paint a progressive, equitable, Black Lives Matter, aura. But it's really just the people who are invested in the city, the people, the snobs downtown, all the people who, with the Foundation for Excellence, who are invested in just keeping an image of Kalamazoo that is not real. People who do not believe in equity, that are white supremacists, and I could talk about decolonization with this and where that comes from. So it's horrible because, in October of 2021, the mayor himself, David Anderson, and Chief Coakley went to tell people who are living on the sidewalk to leave the city. And that in a city that supposedly is progressive after like 3 evictions in 1 week, like what kind of city is this? Okay, this all started, everybody wanted to blame the increase in crime at Ampersand and all this, but that started because of the eviction moratorium ending, the hotel intervention program, the nights closing, and the Middleton campus being evicted. And the city, you all did not have an emergency program in place. There was no options besides cell phones and useless housing vouchers. And you guys are acting like the surprise eviction was not a big deal, which supposedly nobody knew about except KDPS, the city manager, and the COC. We don't know where Sarah Jacobs is now. She was very present that day, and yet activists are facing charges for the city's failure. You all take your responsibility and role you play or fail to play in this. Literally push people to the sidewalks does not make sense in a city that is supposedly progressive and equitable. Where's the transparency in Lyndall Grissom's death? And I'm afraid to talk about this because this runs deep. This is tied to Bronson too, and I'm sure you guys all have heard Letitia Grissom talk about this. This is concerning. This speaks corruption. So this system only works for the rich and those who are willing to submit, because we see the Kalamazoo Community Foundation retaliating against Mara for being just present at the sweep that happened at the Community Foundation, where they were forced to pay people's hotels because there was no other options. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, please.
Good evening. I'm Julie Jensen, and I just came by to introduce myself and let you know that I am one of the candidates, one of the 4 candidates for Ninth Circuit Court Judge of Kalamazoo County. And I wanted to let you know that I feel like I'm the best qualified for this job because I have been practicing lawyer since 1992, so I've been in practice for 30 years now. I'm a native to the Kalamazoo area. I graduated from Porter Central High School, married my high school sweetheart, and I've lived in the community ever since. Raised my 2 children here and my grandson as well. So I just want to give you a brief history of my career experience. I started with the Court of Appeals in 1992. After that, I practiced right downtown here for about 10 years with 2 different local law firms doing civil litigation work in insurance defense, torts, negligence, estates, and so forth. After that, I joined public service, and I went and worked for the Michigan Department of Attorney General under Attorney General Mike Cox. I did that for 10 years, serving the unemployed workers of Michigan. And after that, I decided to become inside counsel for the Michigan Department of Treasury. And I have been there for the last 10 years, serving as their administrative law specialist, one of them. And there I do litigation, legislation, policy work, and I'm also, since 2018, I'm the co-liaison to our 12 national or federally recognized Native American tribes of Michigan. So I've got a broad background as well as a long career. And of the 4 candidates, I feel like I can serve Kalamazoo the best. I'm the only Native, I'm the only one who has 30 years of experience, and I'm the only one who has done 3 different types of law. And we have 2 judges that are retiring due to mandatory age, and that's a civil trial judge, Alexander Lipsy, and we have a family law judge, Steve Gorsalitz. And so I can fill either of those roles or a criminal docket if assigned. And I just wanted to stop by and let you know that I do have a website at www.juliejensen, and my last name is spelled E-N rather than O-N, the numeral 4, judge.com. So I can be reached there for comments, input, and materials. And I so much appreciate you listening tonight, and thank you for the time.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else in the chambers who would like to speak during the public comment portion of our meeting? I don't see anybody. Deputy City Manager Chamberlain, has anybody called in?
We'll go ahead and check, and just wanted to remind the public that this is also the opportunity that if anybody wants to call in and make a comment regarding the 2 public hearings, that they need to do that during this call-in time. It's item number F1, which is a public hearing for 215 EM Partners for an obsolete exemption certificate, and public hearing number 2, which is a PA 198 industrial facilities tax exemption for Zoetis on East Kilgore. So,
thank you, Deputy City Manager. I appreciate that. And just for people who may just be realizing that, that number is?
That number is 888-382-9556.
Great, thank you.
So caller ending in 2612, go ahead with the City Commission.
Hello, this is Brandy Crawford Johnson, former Kalamazoo resident. As leaders, as you must remember that your actions and inactions have consequences. The environmental justice disaster in the North Side is a perfect example of how both hurt innocent people. City hydrogen sulfide monitors have been reading way above minimal risk level for quite some time. Not only should you be monitoring H2S, you should also be monitoring all the toxic gases and VOCs that GPI and wastewater treatment plant release. NVHHS has delayed the health consultation 3 times with no date for release. The toxic odor is now spreading into the West Side neighborhoods who are also filing air complaints. The wastewater treatment plant scrapping the biofilter is a bad idea. I see that you're about to give another tax break to another polluter. Why don't you stop giving tax breaks to polluters and use that money to hire a public health expert and install the biofilter at the wastewater treatment plant? The EPA EJ Hazard Index for the North Side is 95 for risk of cancer and respiratory disease. That is unacceptable. It's like saying anyone that lives there is going to get those diseases because of the uncontrolled toxic emissions from GPI and wastewater treatment plants. This is what most experts call a sacrifice zone. Human lives are being sacrificed. It's inhumane. Commissioner Hoffman, don't you live in the North Side? Do you want to get asthma or cancer because you didn't fight hard enough for real change? Show the other leaders that you will not tolerate environmental racism in your neighborhood, and your voice cannot be silenced. Commissioners Cradle and Hess have recently quoted out-of-state environmental justice articles that I have never seen them even comment in an MLive article that they want to help save lives in Kalamazoo's EJ community. I've seen mayors and commissioners all over the U.S. fight for their environmental justice communities. Our mayors and commissioners stay silent. Why? If you want to be an anti-racist government, help to stop the environmental racism from continuing in Kalamazoo. Vice Mayor Cooney, I plead with you to put up a vote to hire a public health expert today. You are the only leader who has voiced concerns in cleaning up the toxic pollution, acknowledging that we have environmental issues that need to be addressed. The North Side residents' lives are at risk. Kalamazoo is a valley and traps toxic pollution, so all neighborhoods have some health risks due to toxic emissions. Malfunctioning equipment at both plants is still not fixed. The leaking junction chamber being fixed at the wastewater treatment plant should have been fixed in 2009 when you did your first toxic odor study. I lose sleep at night wondering why it wasn't fixed before I moved to Kalamazoo and developed severe asthma. This is a public health crisis. Ignoring it will only make things worse. Please do the right thing and hire a non-biased health expert immediately. I love you, Kalamazoo.
That was the last caller.
Thank you, DCM Chamberlain. Next on our agenda is F, public hearings. First one is F1. So I would like now to open a public hearing to receive comments on item F1. It's a resolution approving an application from 215 EM Partners LLC for a PA 146 Obsolete Property Rehabilitation Exemption Certificate for a project located at 215 East Michigan Avenue. Is there any staff presentation on this?
No, Your Honor, we do have staff available if need be for questions.
All right. This is not the first conversation we've had about this. Are there questions that anyone on the commission has for city staff? Commissioner Decker.
Thank you, Mayor. Hello, Director Matrilian. How are you? I don't know if it's more of a question. I know that, we've talked about the OPRA funding or the OPRA district. I did some research on that in my former company. I just want to say that given the buildings that are here within the city of Kalamazoo, being able to take a building and make it useful, to put businesses into there, to have a space for employers to now have more employees, and again, to really, not have to tear down a building to build something new, but really to work with what we already have. So I do know that this is something new that is for the city of Kalamazoo, first time it's ever been done. And I do know that, they're requesting a 12-year exemption. And I know that, what the city would be losing in taxes. I think that the benefit that comes with that is greater, because again, we're taking a building, bringing it into something that we can now use and is no longer obsolete. I do know that staff is doing a great job on working on a policy for, how property owners could apply for a grant or something like this. I just hope that we will also, while we're doing that policy, look at the policy of how we do this going forward with the next one. Again, this is kind of the beginning of one, the first one, so really seeing the ins and outs of how this one works, and also being able to have an area in there to where we're able to split the time frame for the approval of the abatements, just kind of going forward. I believe that this is going to be a success. I believe they're going to do everything they can to make sure that this building represents what they have presented us here today or in the past, which would be businesses and a restaurant. Because from what I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, it's going to be all businesses on the first floor. Is that correct? Or restaurant on the first floor, and then all
office space on the second floor.
complete office space on the second floor. So, because I know we had talked about it being a banquet hall or something like that, but I mean, you guys are affirming that it's going to be office space, correct?
Yes, they made some adjustments.
Okay, awesome. So I guess it really wasn't a question, just more of a statement that I wanted to say, so.
No, but I know, just for the community, I think this is, when me and you've been talking the last week and a half, and I was like, how can I help the community understand this investment? And back in the day when Commissioner Cooney was fresh in the commission, I was a young pup as well. We had a revolving loan fund, and we used HUD CDBG dollars. And there's a location on Douglas called Cookies. It's a restaurant. I think a lot of residents know that location. We invested with government dollars into that facility to be a restaurant. We invested in the infrastructure, the hood, and all the things to make sure it can be a restaurant. That business lasted 2, maybe 3 years that we first. Everyone knows that there's been, I'm going to say, a minimum of 5 different businesses, and I'm being nice, that's been there. But because of that initial investment to make sure that building had the infrastructure and ability to be a restaurant consistently, we've had 50 to a different 100 jobs in that location over the last 20 years. And when me and you was talking about this, I said, I need an example that really hits home for everyone to understand. When you make a significant investment like this and you change the format of a building, it has a ripple effect. The ripple effect of that was you've had multiple businesses come in, restaurant after restaurant, to try to make it happen. And then it had a ripple effect on the property right next to it, which is now a new businesses, a restaurant business is going there. And good and bad, and open up commercial across the street as well. So this initiative is to use a tool that invests in a property that not only sets the property up for right now, but will set it up for years to come. And for me, that was the perfect example that I just kept beating my head. I said, I got to come up with something that Commissioner Decker's been challenging me. I said, I got one. This is the one. Where we use, in this case, it was federal dollars to invest in a property, to bring a restaurant, and to put in a building that wasn't a restaurant, to make the infrastructure improvements to the building that had a 2-decade impact. And hopefully, this investment of almost $5 million would do the same thing for this downtown location. So thank you for calling me up.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Yep.
Any other questions for City Team? Commissioner Pradel?
This was in the packet, but this is just more a general for the public as well. But can the obsolete property rehabilitation exemption certificate, can that be transferred down the road?
The answer is yes. If they sold it and a new entity wanted to utilize it, they would have to come back to the commission to get it transferred.
Cool. Thank you.
Yes.
This is the opportunity for questions. Any other questions for individuals who are here, the City Team? Okay, seeing none at this time. Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks for being present. I appreciate that.
I want to say thank you. I don't know if you had any questions, but thank you. Thank you for your trust. And by the way, we don't subscribe to anybody going out in 2 years. They're going to stay there.
Yeah. Hey, would you mind introducing yourself since you came forward to speak? Yes.
I'm sorry. I'm Fritz Brown. I live in Portage. I'm a developer with Traystar, and most of our properties are in the city of Kalamazoo.
Thank you very much.
I do have one more question, Mayor. I'm sorry.
Commissioner Decker?
Just one more question, Mr. Brown, or first question. So when are you going to start this process, and how long do you foresee it taking?
Well, we're working on it right now. I think starting tomorrow would be a little bit hard. There's a few more hoops we needed to jump through. One was this meeting, making sure we got the tax abatement. The other thing is we're looking for assistance through the MEDC, and we should know through the MEDC's RAP program, and we should have that information here soon as well. But this project doesn't move forward if not help from others, and it's a tough project because costs are very high. This building has no elevator. It's got environmental issues, and so it's going to take a heavy lift to get this thing going.
Okay, because, once, whatever the decision is here tonight, because if I understand correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, but then you still have to go and apply. No, everything's all set, you're just waiting?
We're waiting, yeah.
Okay.
Everything's been applied for, and we're optimistic that things are going to work out our way.
Okay, so we've already applied. Okay. I'm just wondering, I just wondered, I thought that, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, and maybe Director Brown or Director Mitchell might have this answer, but you have to establish the district first, correct? Before is that correct? So
Yeah,
once the district is created, then you can apply, is that correct?
I'll have my consultant.
I get all the hard questions. Joe, I got and growth advisors were the incentive consultant on the project. So the district was created at the last city commission meeting. So today's action is the public hearing and request for approval of the certificate exemption itself.
Thank you for that. That's what I was looking for, and I was not at the last meeting, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, seeing none, now is the opportunity for public comments on this item. Speakers will have 3 minutes for their comments. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the City Commission on this topic? Okay, seeing no one. Commissioners, the recommended action is a motion to adopt the resolution. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Pradel,
Support.
supported by Commissioner Hess. Any discussion? Commissioner Pradel.
Sure. You know, when you look at an obsolete property like this that's just basically sat dormant since 2013, you know, it's exciting to see something that's going to activate that space. And then when you think about the ability of like an anchor location like that, that's an attraction to our community that makes it a, you know, exciting, vibrant place to visit and to be a part of our downtown. You know, it also lifts the tide for everyone around that. And I think that's a powerful thing. You know, you see a strip mall, you know, where, you know, one big anchor store, a big box store goes out, and then all the side ones start to go out as well. And it works in the reverse as well. You know, when you see somebody like this that's going to bring a new, exciting concept to our downtown, I'm excited to see what that will do to lift the tide in the proximity to that as well. So I'm happy to support this exemption certificate.
Thank you, Commissioner Pradel. Any other? Commissioner Hess?
Indeed, I agree with Commissioner Pradel. We just saw the opening of the new restaurant at the Exchange, which has been highly successful, busy, people getting there, a lot of people coming in from outside of our town to visit Kalamazoo. And we all know that a vibrant, healthy downtown is necessary for a vibrant, healthy city. So I will certainly support this.
Thank you, Commissioner Hess. Anyone else? Just one last comment then here from me, just as a clarification. So a little different from the example that was presented by Director Mitchell, which I appreciate, which was literally a cash infusion investment into a piece of property coming out of our pocket, so to speak, whether it was CDBG dollars. In this particular case, that is not the model. The model is that the investment must occur. We will not be part of that investment in that building in order for this benefit to be available to the property. So otherwise, so there's really no cash out of pocket, no loss to us. The investment must occur, millions of dollars of investment, in order for this, a portion of time for not an increase in taxes. Tax revenue will still be coming in for this building, but tied to the new investment, there will be an abatement of that increase in taxes for a period of time, a limited period of time. So that's how it helps the pro forma work here. Just wanted to make sure what people knew was a grant from the city. Assuming there's no more discussion, Clerk Borland, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Hess.
Yes.
Commissioner Hoffman.
Yes.
Commissioner Pradel.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cooney.
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes.
Commissioner Decker.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Commissioners. The resolution has been adopted. Next on our agenda, under hearings as well, is item F2. So I want to open a public hearing to receive comments on a resolution approving a request from Zoetis LLC for a new PA 198 Facilities Tax Exemption Certificate for a property on East Kilgore Road for a period of 6 years, with the option of extending this certificate for an additional 6 years, for a total of 12 years. This is for real property valued at $57,567,482. Just a little clarification on that. Number is not the tax break number. That number relates to the value of investment that's being made by Zoetis. that they're requesting a property tax break on. Commissioner Ritzma, is there a staff presentation on this item?
No, there isn't, but we have staff available if there are questions.
There's staff in the room and probably some other individuals who'd be happy to speak to this project. Are there any questions for our city team or anyone who's here that could help from the City Commission? Commissioner Decker? No? I'm sorry. No. Ooh, all right. I saw you looking at your All right. Any questions then from anyone at this point on this particular item? Okay, seeing none. Thank you. Now is the opportunity for public comments on this item. Speakers will have 3 minutes. If there's anyone in the audience wanting to comment, please come forward, state your name and whether you live in the city. See no one. Commissioners, we have in front of us the recommended action. It's a motion to adopt the resolution. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Vice Mayor Cooney,
Support?
supported by Commissioner Decker. Thank you, Commissioner Decker. Is there any discussion? Commissioner Pradel.
Sure. I've always, heard these stories about, like Upjohn when it was originally in Kalamazoo and, how much you would see products all over the country and whatnot. And, I think the neat thing is that in terms of animal science and applications, it's a pretty significant share of all of that exists throughout the country. And it's exciting that it's all coming from the heart of Kalamazoo. It's pretty significant investment and expansion there. Also, I was just, looking at the packet in terms that talking about 59 jobs over 3 years and 15 jobs in the first year. So I'm happy to support this as well.
Thank you, Commissioner Pradel. We had the opportunity, and I was able to take advantage of it, to tour the Zoetis facility out on East Kilgore. It's actually something you can really drive by and not even think about or notice that it's there, but amazing work. I got to see the inside of the facility as it exists. I got to talk to people who are working there in the facility, team-based kind of work, it's a clean facility and great jobs. And I was very, very happy to get the opportunity. Thank you, Jill Bland and Southwest Michigan First, for setting that up. I think it's very, very important for those of us in these seats to get an opportunity, if we can, to take advantage of seeing what's going on in our great community here. Clerk Boiling, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Hoffman.
Yes.
Commissioner Pradel.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cooney.
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes.
Commissioner Decker.
Yes.
Commissioner Hess.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Commissioners. The resolution has been adopted. Next is the consent agenda. City Manager Ritzma.
Tonight we have 6 items, with item G6 being held over until October 17, the October 17 meeting. Item 1 is approval of a sole source purchase with Electric Housing Incorporated for consulting services to review and update the city's residential zoning standards in the amount of $105,000. Next is the approval of the purchase of odor suppressant chemicals from Solterra Group, LLC, in the amount of $114,348.25. Next, the approval of a 1-year contract with Student Haulers for the removal and disposal of trash, nuisances, and garbage collected pursuant to the enforcement of various city ordinances in the amount of $120,000. Next is the approval of a 1-year contract extension to purchase powder activated carbon from SNR Technologies in the amount of $908,000. Next is the adoption of substantial amendments to the 2019 to 2023 Consolidated Plan and 2019 Action Plan as required by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. And finally, adoption of a resolution vacating Cooley Street between Eleanor and Water Streets.
Thank you, Manager Ritzma. So, Commissioners, the requested action is a motion to approve items 1 through 5, postpone item 6 until October 17th, 2022, our next business meeting, and authorize the city manager to sign all related documents on behalf of the city. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Hess,
Support.
supported by Commissioner Huffman. Clerk Bowling, please call the roll.
Commissioner Pradel,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cooney,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson,
Yes.
Commissioner Decker,
Yes.
Commissioner Hess,
Yes.
Commissioner Hoffman.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioners. Items on the consent agenda are approved. We are now down to our regular agenda. Next is item H1 on the regular agenda. City Manager Ritzma.
First reading of an ordinance amending section 50-1.2, the zoning district map, and approving the updated Kalamazoo College institutional campus master plan agreement with conditions, and to set a public hearing for October 17, 2022.
Thank you, Manager Ritzma. Is there a staff report on this item?
Yeah, I would ask that our Assistant City Planner, Pete Eldridge, come forward. He has a brief presentation on this one.
Planner Eldridge, welcome.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, City Manager and Mayor Anderson and Commissioners. I'm here to just give a brief overview of the Kalamazoo College Institutional Campus Master Plan Renewal and the associated ordinance that goes with that. Just a little background here. In 2012, K College was the first institutional campus zone in the city of Kalamazoo, so that was the first rezoning we had to that institutional campus designation. And with this action also came the establishment of the institutional campus master plan. That plan is good for a total of 10 years. So that was in 2012. So last year, college embarked on updating their institutional campus master plan and worked through that in conjunction with the city planner, Christina Anderson, and really did a incredible job of marrying that with our Imagine Kalamazoo Master Plan 2025, as well as our Streets for All project. So it's really a wonderful plan. Just to touch on a few of the general requirements of the institutional campus zoning and what's got to be in this campus master plan. It does need to show the development and growth of the campus over the next 10 years. It needs to identify buildings and setbacks, parking, other land uses that are specific to the campus. There has to be an agreement between the city and the institution, which is in place. And obviously, this is going to come up every 10 years, that they've got to renew this plan and come before the city with their plan. And in this information, I just want to touch on briefly stadium lighting. As for those that remember what we went through in 2012, as we worked with K College and the residents around Angel Field, the football field, to try to come up with a plan for stadium lighting. Things have come a long ways, and during COVID, for example, the college had applied for an increase in usage of lighting for Mackenzie soccer field and Angels football field. And that went off without any difficulties. So what is in this 2022 institutional campus master plan is really what you see is the movement of the lighting for the fields, for the athletic complex, I should say specifically, is moving into the institutional campus master plan and out of the ordinance where it was identified as a condition, limiting the number of days of usage. And so I won't get into the specifics unless the commissioners want the specifics on how things are changing. But I just wanted to touch on that's one of the differences. And that's only been made possible because of K College's efforts to work with the neighborhood, with the West Main Hills Neighborhood Association, to really come up with a plan to communicate the use of the lights on a regular basis so that everyone is aware of when they're going to be used throughout the week and throughout the year. So what you have before you tonight is 2 items. The ordinance sounds very legalistic, but it's really more of our Chapter 5, or Chapter 50, where we are moving from Appendix A, this information related to the zoning ordinance and the institutional campus, into our new Chapter 50, which is the new zoning ordinance. The Planning Commission did hold a public hearing on this institutional campus master plan and ordinance amendment, and that was on September 1st. It was unanimously approved. And so what's really before the board tonight is, the commission rather, is to adopt the ordinance as well as approve the Kalamazoo College institutional campus.
Thank you very much, Mr. Eldridge, for your complete description. Are there any questions for city staff at this time? All right, seeing none, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to comment on this item? It's item H1. Please come to the podium, give us your name and whether you live in the city. You'll have 3 minutes. Seeing no one, the recommended action is a motion to offer the ordinance for first reading and schedule a public hearing for October 17th, 2022. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Hess.
Support.
Support by Commissioner Decker. Any discussion? Commissioner Pradel.
I was at the Planning Commission meeting when they were presenting on this, and it was remarkable to see how many individuals from the neighborhood actually came and said, you know, we endorse this. And when you look at and reverse back to 2012 and see how contentious that was, you know, it's remarkable to see how well this was done as community. You know, you have neighbors, our city planning staff involved in the process, and a college that seems to be incredibly responsive to both. So I applaud everybody involved in that process.
Thank you, Commissioner Pradel. Commissioner Decker?
Thank you, Mayor. I just have to echo what Commissioner Pradel said. I also watched that meeting, and the support from the neighborhood was tremendous. They definitely thanked. I guess there were some areas that some of the neighbors had concern. Those concerns were addressed, and they were very happy with the outcome of what that plan looked like. So, yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Decker. I really appreciate those firsthand communications from 2 of you that actually either watched or went to the Planning Commission meeting. So thank you. That's very, very helpful. Our Planning Commission is an advisory body, and so they provide advice to the City Commission. We ultimately are the ones that make the decision. So it's very helpful to have positive Planning Commission and a unanimous support for this action. Any other discussion? Commissioner Hess?
Yes, as an employee of Kalamazoo College during the 2012 years and all of that, moving up to this, I was sitting out there talking to the commission and saying why we needed to have these lights. I want to say that the college has grown and learned and really created and cultivated the relationship with the neighborhood, with the West Main Hill neighborhood. And that's been wonderful to watch and to see. Really kind of creating that town-gown relationship that we need to see in what is an educational community here. So I will totally support this. I was fascinated reading through the packet and reading the plan, and I believe they've done amazing work, and I support it fully. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hess. Any other discussion? All right, seeing none, Clerk Borling, please call the roll.
Commissioner Pradel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cooney?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes.
Commissioner Decker?
Yes.
Commissioner Hess?
Yes.
Commissioner Hoffman?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioners. The motion is passed. Next on our regular agenda is item H2, City Manager Risma.
First reading of an ordinance to remove the wellhead protection overlay from Chapter 3 of Appendix A, the zoning ordinance, and to set a public hearing for October 17, 2022.
Thank you, Manager Ritzma. Is there a staff report on this item?
Yes, I'd like to ask Jean Tolanda to come forward. She is our Environmental Programs Manager, and she'll actually be giving a brief presentation touching on both H2 and item H3, which are both dealing with wellhead protection. Jean?
Welcome, Ms. Tolanda.
Thank you, and good evening. I appreciate you allowing me to talk about the wellhead protection ordinance and the overlay map that goes with it. I am the Environmental Programs Manager for Water Resources Division of Public Services, and my duties are to make sure that we are in compliance and that we establish enforcement with our wellhead protection program as well as our stormwater management. I also am involved in overseeing some of the contaminated liability sites here in the city of Kalamazoo. And all of the programs that I represent are all used in the site plan review process, so that's my contribution to the site plan. The wellhead protection ordinance is actually something that the city established due to our, we have a wellhead protection program which is mandated by the state for source water protection. And as part of it, as we adjust and change different aspects of our wellhead operations or things change, such as after 2018 and the PFAS situation, we had to make some changes to well fields and wells, et cetera. So our program requires that we routinely go back and try to assess if it's time to upgrade our plan. And part of that is the wellhead protection overlay map, which is associated with the ordinance. That's the map where we have hydrogeologic modelers come in and they model the areas around our well fields where we need to protect the water because it's our source water for our drinking water supply. So we did that in 2017, and we got new information in as well as changing of our system somewhat, and we established a new groundwater capture zone map where we restrict land use as well as chemical use. And that map was approved in 2021, about a year ago, by the state as the official capture zone map, which is, you would know it as our wellhead protection overlay map. And now that that is established, we need to get that into the ordinance. So we took the opportunity, because we had to do that, to also go back and look at the old version, which was last established 2015. We updated it, put a lot of new information in, tidied it up, and so it is much clearer and much more enforceable. But then in that process, we realized that the wellhead overlay really doesn't fit in the zoning code for a couple of reasons. The first one being the overlay map is map-based by modeling. It is not parcel-based. So in effect, in the zoning code, it doesn't fit in. It doesn't allow for that mapping type of overlay. The other part is that this program and the enforcement and compliance of it is done by public services. So having it in a zone code really, it doesn't apply. It's not zoning based in the way it's written. So for better compliance and easier enforcement, it really belongs under the control of public services. So the twofold action is, one, to take the ordinance out of the zoning code, and we'd like to just simply move it. There's no real change in anything in it except for updated materials, links, and better language. And we'd like to put it in the Code of Ordinance as Chapter 39.
Thank you very much, Jean Tolanda, for that very detailed but very clear explanation. I appreciate that. Are there questions for city staff? I see our Director Baker is here as well as Commissioner Pradle.
I really appreciate the education process, including calling Director Baker from time to time for some help with these things. I will admit, out of everything I've been a part of for the last 2.5 years, this one was the biggest head scratcher to get your head around to understand. But I just wanted to kind of summarize for the public, if you know, kind of the Cliff Notes version here. So effectively what we're doing is in Zoning Code Chapter 3, we're going to take that same content and move it to Chapter 39 because we feel like that fits better under basically public services instead of the zoning code, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And then there's also a provision in that Chapter 39 which talks about weights and measures, which is effectively obsolete because we do not do that anymore as a city, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
We don't have a weights and measures function at this time.
And so the content from Chapter 3 is just effectively moving over to Chapter 39, not really much change in terms of that transfer of content, but you have to do Chapter 3 first before you can do Chapter 39 because of that change, correct?
Correct.
Okay, cool. Just wanted to help the public learn like I did as well, so thank you, Director Baker. And thank you, Gene, as well.
Yep, thank you, Commissioner Pradle. We'll get to talk a little bit more about weights and measures in our next action, so. Any other questions? Is there anyone in the audience who would like to comment on this item? It's item H2. Seeing no one, the recommended action is a motion to offer the ordinance for first reading and schedule a public hearing for October 17th, 2022. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Hoffman.
Support.
Supported by Vice Mayor Cooney. Any other discussion? Seeing none, Clerk Boylan, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Cooney.
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes.
Commissioner Decker.
Yes.
Commissioner Hess.
Yes.
Commissioner Hoffman.
Yes.
Commissioner Pradle.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioners. The motion passes. Next on the regular agenda is item H3. City Manager Ritzma.
First reading to adopt an ordinance repealing the weights and measures provisions of Chapter 39 of the Code of Ordinances and replacing those provisions with the Wellhead Protection Ordinance provisions.
Thank you, Manager Ritzma. I presume there is not a staff report on this, but does anybody, is that correct, or?
Right, they're available,
If
still
anybody
available
has any
for
questions,
questions.
sure. Any questions for staff on this one? I know you referenced this before in your comments, Commissioner Pradle, so. Bit of housekeeping, I think, on this one. Correct? All right. Seeing that there are no questions, is there anyone in the audience who would like to comment on this item? This item H3. Seeing no comments, recommended action is a motion to offer the ordinance for first reading. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Decker.
Support.
Supported by Commissioner Prater. Any discussion? Seeing none, Clerk Boylan, please call the roll.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes.
Commissioner Decker.
Yes.
Commissioner Hess.
Yes.
Commissioner Hoffman.
Yes.
Commissioner Pradle.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cooney.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioners. Next are reports and legislation. City Manager Ritzma, do you have a report?
Yeah, just one item this evening. For those that remember our former city commissioner, Jack Urban, he has taken up another profession of producing and directing a cable television show. And the first edition of this is our own very own Rebecca Kick doing an interview around the emergency housing ordinance. So if you haven't seen it, I think it's worthy of an Emmy or something, but we'll find out. So you can watch it on PMN, just search for it there, and you should find the link.
Thank you, Manager Ritzma. Now is the opportunity for commissioners who wish to make comments. Is there anyone that'd like to start this evening? I'll wait a moment. Is it
Yes.
playing chicken here?
I would like to, I will speak. Mayor.
All right, Commissioner
Thank
Decker.
you. Well, I just want to say that we've had some great discussion here, especially with the Cal meeting, and talking about the housing. Housing, again, is first and foremost, I think, on a lot of people's minds here. I do want to say that, again, I kind of said this in the committee of the whole, but, you know, again, with the budget approval approaching us quickly, and with these ARPA funds only being a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, we really need to make sure that we are focused on where we can spend these funds at, where we can spend these dollars at, that's going to be for the greater of the city and for the community. I've been doing some research on other communities and kind of what they're using some of those funds for. I really think looking into a workforce development program for a specified time frame. That means putting, you know, so much money behind this program and saying you've got this for 5 years or 10 years or whatnot. So when organizations are out there building their plans and figuring out what they're needing to do and get individuals and peoples and processes in place, they know that they have this funding specifically for a certain time. Definitely, again, looking at, you know, what Director Mitchell showed us for the housing, I think that's great. I think really looking at alternative ways of how we can create housing with the limited space that the city of Kalamazoo has, and what other organizations we can partner with to use parcels that other nonprofit agencies may have. I think that's going to be, you know, a great addition to the city of Kalamazoo, and, you know, with some of the infill areas. There was a young lady that I used to work with, and, you know, a home that KNHS was doing was actually put up right next to her home. And she loved it. She's like, I love this. This is perfect. I have a neighbor. I have someone here. This, you know, I have someone to talk to, pretty much is what she was saying. I did want to say that our lead program that was initiated with, again, going out to the residents within the city of Kalamazoo, that has been very successful. I've walked last Friday, and we hit a lot of houses. I saw a lot of things within neighborhoods that I did not know about. Got to talk with one or two people, shall I say. Found out that we have a community goose, I think it is, that lives there. So that's awesome. But again, as Mayor Anderson said earlier at the COW, that, you know, we've also gotten that $4.6 million grant to help with the lead replacements and lead abatements here within the city of Kalamazoo. That program will be going on. September was the last time that we walked, but that program will be going on next year. We're definitely looking to get more volunteers. Hopefully we can do the training online. It's a real quick training. Once you have that training, you can volunteer at, I believe it is, and correct me if I'm wrong, Director Mitchell, I think it is any event that the city of Kalamazoo is looking for volunteers for. If you haven't had a chance to drive down Stadium Drive, it's beautiful, it's lovely. I know it took some time, frustration, traffic jams, late to this, late to that, but when you look at the finished product, you really see what the city of Kalamazoo can do in a specified amount of time. And they had it done, they had it open for Communiversity, and I think that kind of really showed, I think it was New Hampshire that they played, you know, everyone that came from there that, you know, hey, you know, we're great. I do enjoy the art wall that has been placed within the city of Kalamazoo. I think we need more, just to express the artistic nature that we have here within the city of Kalamazoo. So individuals have outlets to put their art on that are big, not on city property. I would like to, hopefully, City Manager Ritzma will be able to get an update on where we are within the bathrooms for the downtown area. I definitely would like to get an update on that and kind of see where that's at. I know we've got a committee that's been put together for it. And I think it was 2 commission meetings ago, you know, I asked something regarding the water and the fountains that weren't open within the city of Kalamazoo. From what I understand, the Mayor's Riverfront Park has now had their water turned on. And I can definitely understand if we don't go forward at this point and turn on any more, only because they're going to have to go right back into winterization. But I definitely think that is something that we need to make sure that we get on in the spring when we're able. I happened to do an event in the downtown Kalamazoo, and after that public comment, I kind of paid a little bit more notice to individuals that came to the drinking fountain that I happened to be sitting right next to. I had at least 20 plus individuals come up to that fountain, including kids, wanting to get a drink. And again, these are individuals for this event that are traveling from out of state, Wisconsin, Indiana, Ohio, from all of the little outskirts. And, you know, I politely explained to them, unfortunately, no, it's not working right now, but we're working on it. And, you know, I really think that is, you know, something that I hope to see on next spring, for sure. Let me see here. I understand, I was just speaking with the mayor, and the lodge is open, so that is awesome. Yay. Very excited for that. That is something that we've all been in anticipation for quite some time. I actually had an opportunity to stop in and take a look at the facility, and it's beautiful. I do believe that, you know, having more spaces like this and more buildings like this to assist, you know, primarily for the houseless is a start, but again, we need many, many more. So hopefully we'll have some wonderful developers out there that want to come to the city and say, hey, I want to take this on, because that is what we need, is we need, you know, individuals and developers are definitely building homes and residences and apartments, but we really need to make sure that we're also building for the least vulnerable in our community, and right now I think that is the houseless. And I think that's all that I have to say today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Decker. Is there another commissioner who'd like to make comments? Commissioner Pradel?
Thank you, Mayor. Wanted to take a second to recognize Building Blocks at Kalamazoo. It is a phenomenal organization, activating block by block in our community. They had they activated this weekend to bring volunteers and residents on the north side this weekend to place 60 solar lamp posts, basically in yards where residents had indicated that they wanted more light. And it was just incredible. I mean, in one like 3 or 4 hour period, these volunteers like placed 60 light posts in yards. And so just really wanted to recognize Katie McPherson and Stephanie Villar for their amazing work. And actually, our very own Anthony Ladd, I believe, is on their board, and he was out there this Saturday as well, helping out. So thank you to their team and to all the volunteers and residents who do that activation work together to solve problems. Wanted to share kind of a neat Kalamazoo Public Library story that happened a couple weekends ago, and I thought this would be kind of a fitting time to share this. But my sister, my only sibling, and her husband, so my brother-in-law, visited for the first time in about a year from far out of town. And while he was here, he was telling me that he recently got really into doing like genealogy research and everything. And when he was digging through his records, he found this photo from like the 1890s or something. And it was like a far distant female relative of his. And he turned the photo over, and granted, he's born and raised from, you know, probably 6-7 hours away. On the back of the photo, it was of his ancestor visiting the city of Kalamazoo. And it was a picture of him outside of a house on Portage Street. And so I'm like, oh, this is so interesting. He was like really fascinated by this, and it was like, I want to find out more about this. So he was trying to put it on me to go out and figure out where this was. And so I was like, that they have a Kalamazoo history room at the library. And so on the weekend while he was here, I sent him down to the library to go check it out. And sure enough, by the time he had left, he had figured out who the resident was there at the time, who she was likely visiting. And so it was kind of neat because he got to put these pieces of puzzles together. But I mean, just a connection from hundreds of miles away of somebody visiting the city of Kalamazoo and having that connection from long ago. So thank you, Kalamazoo Public Library, for that. I also wanted to just mention, I'll just continue to share my thoughts on the ARPA funding. This is a once-in-a-generation opportunity for us as a city, and we're doing great work with it already, but this is an opportunity for us to do something significant, to turn around a struggle or an issue in our community or make some lasting impact for generations. And I just really hope that we take that to heart as we're finalizing the budget for next year and future years, and really try to get creative about potentially things that could be high impact, low resource to activate those funds, especially for people who have been particularly adversely impacted by the pandemic and who had been struggling before the pandemic, who had been exacerbated by that struggle. So share that. I don't know if this is appropriate how to do this, but I wanted to make sure to highlight Clerk Borling. Can I defer some of my time to have him share some of the offerings, not to put you on the spot, Clerk? If you would consider just sharing some of the added hours, satellite location, and just some of the things we're doing with absentee voters. I think I also just recently heard that you potentially will have a couple extra days to count absentee ballots.
Correct. And we are still trying to figure out the implications of that, those extra days for processing. But just a little bit of an update. Last week, we mailed out almost 8,500 absentee ballots between Thursday and Friday. And so those ballots are on their way, and we're starting to get them back already. They're not just on their way, they're hitting their mark, and voters are getting them. And so absentee ballots are available. They're available in the clerk's office at this time. And we will be having some extra office hours. That will be the Saturday prior to the election. Will be open from I believe it is 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And I'll highlight these again as we get closer. And then actually the weekend before that, so this would be roughly 10 days prior to the election, we're going to be open on both Saturday and Sunday to offer some additional office hours there. And then we will have one evening where we're open until 7 p.m. That's actually the close of registration, giving voters opportunity to get those registration forms in before they have to start providing proof of residency, because that's a requirement in the last 2 weeks prior to the election, so that last night we're going to be open later, so voters have that opportunity.
So satellite location at Western is what?
Correct.
Another option open to all residents of the city, not just Western Michigan University.
Correct. We will be opening a satellite location at Western Michigan University in another week or so, 10 days, and that will be open to any registered voter in the city. You don't have to be a voter in that precinct or a student at Western. Anyone can go to that. That will be at the Bernhard Center, and the hours at that location will mimic what we do here at City Hall, or vice versa, however you want to consider that. But that location will also be open those additional weekend hours and evening hours.
I don't think we do enough to thank you and all your work, especially during these times when there's particular pressures on clerk offices around the country. Thank you to you and Deputy Clerk Moss and the entire team for the extra hours and efforts you're putting on to respond to these somewhat uncertain times. I heard your interview on WMUK today, and you're just talking about, like, it's hard to predict what the new norm looks like, right? I mean, so you don't know if you're still going to consistently face, pandemic level of absentee mailing and responses, or if this is just a one and done type thing. So I think you and your team have done a tremendous job of adapting and pivoting, and thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Pradel. Commissioner Hess.
Yeah, okay, so great things are happening in Kalamazoo, not the least of which is being able to spend some ARPA money. And I look forward to our conversations and being able to come up with something really meaningful, purposeful, and that's going to last for the ages and make a big difference in Kalamazoo. But there's little things happening all around this city. I want to give a big shout out to Jen Hudson-Preigert. Jen was here at the last meeting giving us information about the sounds of the zoo. I was able to go to each one of those performances except for the last Tuesday. So they went Monday through Sunday. There were 54 bands in those days that performed. Friday, Saturday, Sunday was here at Bronson Park, and the others were throughout Kalamazoo. And I really want to emphasize that one person, this was the vision and the creative work of one person who over a year and a half really said, I love Kalamazoo and I want it to be filled with music. And in addition to the Gilmore, which fills us with music in the spring, and absolutely though, last Friday, Herbie Hancock was here too. So we've been blessed with some amazing music here in Kalamazoo, and I just want to give a big shout out and thank you to Jen for her vision and for her work for Sounds of the Zoo. That is planned to become an annual event, and it will only grow. Really excited about the opening of the new Walnut and Park Diner that's happening on Portage Road. That's going to be opening on October 12th. And they had a soft opening, so I was able to dine there, and it was fantastic. So please, Walnut and Park Diner, right across from, is it Twine? Yeah, right across from Twine. So you can get your diner and your wine, and you're good to go. But that will open, and I highly recommend it. It's great for food and ambiance. I want to thank our Department of Public Safety for doing their Citizens Academy. It was 2 weekends, and I believe it had 20 people. Is that correct, City Manager? 20 people for each of the two. 25? Around there. 20 or so folks each weekend to really participate and learn what our public safety officers do. And I think that's just really a positive step for those citizens, but also for our officers to be able to teach what it is they do, because you learn by teaching. So I talk a lot about education. I was an educator for my career. I believe it's one of the strongest things that we do here in Kalamazoo, and it's a thread that unites us. For me to do this job here and sit here, I have to seek it, because I don't know how to do the jobs of the staff and administration that I supervise. And so I seek out education on a regular basis. I've gone to our Department of Community Planning, Economic Development. I've gone to administration. I've gone to public services. And this is definitely a need for continuing education. I did receive my ballot clerk Borling, and I need continuing education about voting for those folks, so I have to do some homework. So I was going to mention Jack Urban and his public media network, but city manager beat me to it. I highly recommend that as a watch for everyone, because of this emergency housing ordinance that we have passed needs partners. Please go out and look for the Public Media Network with Jack Urban and Rebecca Kick. So anyway, the nature of this job up here, our major challenges are housing, our race, our poverty, and violence. Those are big challenges. I don't know how to solve them, but I believe we do. I believe in our community. I believe also that the work of the municipality is to provide water, clean, safe drinking water, and wastewater service. safe passable roads and streets, and planning for such, and then also providing public safety to this town. That's a lot to ask of a municipality. But the more I learn about each of those is that I still have so much more to learn. This is Kalamazoo's largest opportunity. So we had the challenges here, but our opportunities and our connection lies in the fact that we all can deliver or receive education on a daily basis. That's our thread. That's what unites us. So as I seek out information from these departments and talk to them, I'm grateful for those individuals, staff, administration, and who I know do this work 24/7, 365. They don't stop thinking about it. They have heart. I'd like to quote one of our city staff when I said, "I'm amazed at what you do." We are motivated, energized, and inspired to do this work to improve the lives and properties of the citizens and the homeowners of Kalamazoo. And wait, it wasn't said like that. It was like, we are motivated, we're energized, and we're inspired to do this work. This is who your city staff is. This is who the city administration is. They do this work and they take it to heart. They have heart. They know more than me about the daily workings of the city. I'm so impressed with their heart, but I trust them in their work. Our administrators and our staff and everyone working, all of our 600+ employees working for the city of Kalamazoo. So I believe in Kalamazoo, great things are happening in Kalamazoo, and I believe that we can definitely work on our challenges as we accept our abundance in this town. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hess. Commissioner Hoffman? No comments, okay. Vice Mayor Cooney?
Thank you, Mayor. I have a few things. One thing is, next Monday, some people will celebrate Columbus Day, but we don't celebrate Columbus Day in the city of Kalamazoo. We celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day. And it's really an occasion for us to remember that we are on ground that belong to Native Americans, and to remember everything that has happened with the Europeanization of America. So I wanted to put that out there first. Secondly, I don't know yet if it has happened, but I've heard enough from people in the Winchell neighborhood that they want those parking spaces restored so that people could get to Asylum Lake. Has that happened, or is it still? I really would like to see that happen. And somebody came to the last meeting and said they had 150 signatures on a petition, and people have come here. So I'm strong on that. I remain very concerned, as I know everybody else is, about the conditions of people, the health conditions of people on the north side of Kalamazoo. And whenever I bring this up, people say, well, we're getting a study from the state. Well, the state has delayed their study all too long for me. I think we need to write to the state, or whatever way we contact them, and tell them we need that report. And I would be in favor of hiring a health expert to tell us what's happening up there. I don't know what's happening up there, and I don't think we've had a clear explanation. But we do know that people living in a census tract on the north side of the city have 14 years less life expectancy than other people in this county, and that's not acceptable. The other thing I wanted to mention was on Friday, when I was reading the New York Times, I read a column by David Brooks, who is a national columnist, very famous, and he talked about Kalamazoo in here. And so, in this column, it's called The Crisis of Men and Boys. And he's writing about a new book called Of Boys and Men, written by a man named Richard Reeves. I know Richard Reeves Lewis Walker Institute brought Richard Reeves here to this community. He writes on social mobility. What are your chances, if you're born poor, of moving out of poverty and upwards? So he's written a new book about boys and men. And what he writes in there is that how boys are not succeeding like girls are succeeding. He said, so he's quoting, he says, first, boys are much more hindered by challenging environments than girls. Second, policies and programs designed to promote social mobility often work for women, but not men. Reeves, who is a scholar at the Brookings Institute, visited Kalamazoo, Michigan, where thanks to a donor, high school graduates get to go to many colleges in the state free. That's our promise. The program increased the number of women getting college degrees by 45%. The men's graduation rates remained flat. So I think that's a challenge for us. I know that the people in the schools, the people at the promise, the people who are working in communities and schools are working as hard as they can. But something is going wrong. We are not finding a way to help our young men get through school and get to college and get through college. And I think this is a challenge that we have to look at and see what more we can do about that.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Cooney. Appreciate that. Well, at this point, actually we have more meeting ahead of us, so I'm going to take Commissioner Hoffman's lead and just say thank you, appreciate serving with everybody. And I think if there's anything we've been reminded of is that many things happen in Kalamazoo that have nothing to do with us, but are doing the good work that needs to happen. And I just appreciate that. Every day I get to be involved in projects, large and small, individuals that are doing great things. For example, a chamber on Friday, one of the 4 events I attended on Friday evening, recognized Jamari Bogan, talking about housing that's happening. A local developer that came here to Kalamazoo, played football at Western, and now has his own 13-unit project going and is working on the Mount Zion senior project. After that, I had an opportunity to go and spend a little time with Daniel Mays, who's opening Dabney and Company, where Civil Coffee used to be. Had a soft opening down there. A very entrepreneurial young man who's looking to open up a great space downtown here, which it's not fully open yet. He's hoping to get open in time for Western Homecoming. So there is great work from the individual level, from the organizational level, happening all around town. It's just fabulous to be part of it. So at this point, we have an item on our N agenda, which is a closed session to discuss labor negotiations. So, Commissioners, the recommended action is a motion to go into closed session. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Hess.
Support.
Support by Commissioner Decker. Will the City Commission need to return to open session? No? Okay. So sometimes we come out of closed session and have to take action, which we must do in open, and we evidently do not, so we will not be coming back, not be returning after closed session here. So that means at this moment I can say I love you, Kalamazoo. I'm sorry.
It requires a roll call vote.
I love it when the city attorney shakes his head like that. Thank you, City Attorney. Clerk Bornling, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Decker.
Yes.
Commissioner Hess.
Yes.
Commissioner Hoffman.
Yes.
Commissioner Pradel.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cooney.
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes. Thank you, Attorney Robinson. The motion passes, and we are adjourned.